Are you curious about what yoga looks like off the mat, or keen to hear how yogis all around the world live? This show will let you in on the secret that there's no such thing as a perfect yogi. Welcome to the Plant-Powered Yoga Podcast. Please welcome your host, yoga teacher, coffee lover, vegan, and known as the Plant-Powered Yogi, Jess Ivers. Hello everyone, and welcome to the final episode of this season of the Plant-Powered Yoga Podcast. Looking forward to sharing today's chat with you. Joining me from Bali is Shae Lamond, and I met Shae back in 2017 when I did my teacher training in Bali. She was one of the facilitators on training, and I fell in love with her energy and her teaching style straight away. And she was someone I really connected with and loved practicing with. And every morning when she would show up on the mat and she'd be our teacher for the morning, it would be such a beautiful surprise. And I learned so much from Shae over that month while I was in Bali, and continue to learn from her with what she's up to now. Shae is working for herself and taking a bit of a break from teaching in studios and working on her Claiming Feminine retreats online at the moment, which you'll hear a little bit more about. And we delve into a little bit of the topic around masculine and feminine energy, which is something that when I first heard this, I didn't really get it and was like, what is this? It seems a little bit too out of my depth of understanding. But the way Shae explains it and the way she helps you process it is really, really nice as well. So we'll go into a little bit of that. So I'll let you enjoy my chat with Shae and see you on the other side. Welcome to another episode of the Plant-Powered Yoga Podcast, here with fellow yoga teacher and also podcaster Shae Lamond from Bali. How are you?
I'm amazing. Very warm right now in this moment. It's very hot today.
I was thinking that before, actually. I was like, it's like the hot season there, when usually this is when everyone leaves Australia and is like, I need to get out of the cold in Melbourne or wherever, go to Bali, have a few weeks in the sun. So I'm sure it's very quiet over there compared to usual.
Oh my gosh, there is no one here. It's empty. I've never seen Bali like this. I've been here for 5 years and I've never seen it this quiet, and I'm really enjoying it.
It's nice. It's as stressful as everything else is that's going on right now. It's, before we hit record, we were talking about patience and how it has been nice to do that. So, and silver linings and all, but
yeah, exactly. I think it's part of me, I was feeling a little bit like, everyone's having these really intense experiences and there's a lot of sad things happening with people at the moment throughout this pandemic. But I was like, really, actually, my work has been flourishing. My health has been pretty good, relationships, and also my enjoyment of Bali being really quiet. And I felt at first, I was like, oh no, I can't be so happy right now because others are suffering. And it's like, no, actually, this is really helpful to maintain a positive outlook, to maintain a positive energy. That's going to be helpful in the long run for, the greater environment of people as well who I come into contact with. So, and it's the ability to look at the silver linings, amid all of this darkness is what gives us that lighter energy that's really needed in the darker times.
And I think the longer it's gone on, the more, I think at the start there was a lot of that real overwhelming sadness and panic and just uncertainty. But I think as it's kind of gone on in lockdown, so to speak, depending where you are, there is that sense of maybe there's something more to look forward to now. It's like, this is the time to just sort of reset everything. So
yes, totally. Yeah.
But going back to when we first met all the way back in 2017, which seems like a bazillion years ago now, because this year already seems like it's been dragging on for a decade. So you and I met on yoga teacher training in Bali, where you were one of the teachers on the facilitators at Radiantly Alive. And I just loved your classes so much. And I know I said this to you before, you just And we spoke again before we hit record about how you're not so much teaching in a studio setting anymore. But I just remember that was one of the things that kind of blew me away about you and why I loved your classes so much, because everything just felt so natural with you. I still think about your classes all the time, actually. And I still think about our class we did on where we did the blindfold yoga.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I really love teaching that. I haven't taught blindfold anything in a while. I do it on the retreats that I hold as well. Because it's so potent, such a potent experience.
It was unlike, I didn't even know what to expect with it. I was like, it sounded a bit weird, but then everything that sort of came out of it. But I think about that often, actually. But we met, yes, in beautiful Bali in Ubud, and you're now living in Canggu, you said?
Yeah.
Yes. And for those who do know me, know that I'm the lacking of Australians that haven't been to Bali multiple times. And I feel like, this year was the year I wanted to get back there, but it'll have to wait a little bit longer. What else has been happening in your life since then?
Oh my gosh. So this is going to turn into a 5-hour podcast. No, not really. The abridged version is just a whole ton of growth in terms of really understanding myself at a deeper level and what I wanted to invest my energy into. So at that time, my partner at the time was the leader, the key facilitator of your training. And we were living together and had all of the cats together. And it was a really beautiful relationship. And I have so much gratitude and love for him, even still. But at that moment, I was really finding my footing in teaching more and really loving that feeling of like helping people to get into their bodies, but also like embody themselves, not just embody like, this is the structure of yoga and this is what it looks like and how it's like, no, that's why I love teaching things like feminine flow and blindfold yoga, because it's more free, and just seeing people light up with the experience of just being themselves is what really fueled me to just keep teaching more and more. So over the next 2 years after the training, I stayed at the studio and I was teaching multiple classes a day, almost every day of the week, and really just really like understanding my voice more, learning how to speak up more, and just becoming a more powerful version of myself. And what also helped that was in my personal life, having the experience of that relationship ending and really feeling myself start to question key things about who I was, what I wanted. Like breakups are just such a great way to grow in a very fast, short amount of time.
And I feel like there's like, when you were talking before about like we were, together and we had all the cats, and it's like all these parallels of my life, of what's happened to me this year. But it's, without cutting you off too much, but it's been, about 6 or 7 months now for me and realizing, maybe there was some things. And even though it wasn't necessarily my decision, it, like you just said, a breakup is a really powerful way to figure things out.
Totally, because you're forced to look at key parts of yourself because your shadow rises, the shadow parts of you, right? Like the insecurity, the doubt, the hurt, the pain, just being in your pain body. And when we can bring those things to light with compassion and empathy and having support from others is one of the biggest things, I think, that key support, so you can support yourself more as well. Then it can be just a beautiful opportunity to level up your soul. And so I did that, and I did that in a way where, I started to really like, when I was in that relationship, I had my blog and I was really going deeper into feminine work. And we were doing that together. He was in masculine work, I was in feminine, and we were like, kind of, just playing around in this world of Tantra and energy embodiment. And for me, the feminine work felt really compelling because I'd grown up in such a masculine way of being, and I've been in experiences where that was a really harmful to my mental and physical well-being. And so when this breakup happened, I found myself realizing that, even in that relationship, I was always like searching for this connection to my feminine. I was trying to find it. My blog was literally called Finding Feminine. And after that, I was like, by saying that I'm trying to find this, I'm making it true that I am not that. Like I'm literally making that a true thing, that I'm not this thing because I'm out to find it. So what I wanted was actually to claim this energy. And at first I was like, I want to be claimed. Like I got to a point after the breakup where I'm like, I'm so ready for like another man now. Like come and claim me, masculine, my feminine's waiting, come and claim me. And
I'm
then
just
I realized,
imagining you like just in like flower petals or something, like out in a waterfall in Bali somewhere, being like, I'm here, everyone. Come and find me.
yeah, I mean, that's what it was, because I did feel this void of having such a masculine presence in my life before with my partner, that I was like, I need that. I need that. And then there was a really big like turning point in my own self, which then transmuted to my work. And that was realizing that actually I needed to claim myself. And that by feeling a void of the masculine, that was the void of my connection to my inner masculine. So I wanted my inner masculine to be like the perfect partner for my feminine. And as soon as I made that connection, honestly, I had never felt so connected to my feminine and embodying that energy in my life. And I realized it was all about owning the part of me that was also masculine in a way that was really helpful, like really, beneficial. Like this energy is such a gift to have, but so many of us, even the feminist movement, has really like made the masculine the enemy. And by doing that, we're making an energetic part of us the enemy, and we fragment ourselves. So this inspired me because that's really where I felt myself like ground and land into my power, into a more matured way to be in life, more excited, just more like owning myself as a woman and not just like a girl, like I felt like I had matured as a woman, and I felt so compelled to create work around this for other women. So I started doing a lot of workshops in the studio that I was teaching based on like goddess embodiment and feminine dance, and that was really inspiring. And I felt more excited about doing these experiences than I was about teaching these classes, the regular studio classes anymore. I felt myself wanting to expand more. I led a retreat for women in Bali, and 1 month after that, which was last year, at the end of last year, I quit teaching at the studio. So I have been through a big transition, because this work, which feels like it's coming from the core of me, and teaching yoga in the way that I was doing it felt like it was starting to come from less of the core of me and more of like one of the forms of how I can express, teachings and wisdom, but not the form I really wanted to play in anymore. I wanted to play in retreats, feminine dance, women's circles. So yeah, I left the studio in a really harmonious and beautiful way. It wasn't chaotic. It wasn't painful. It was just beautiful because I left at the right time. I left, when I felt the inkling to leave, I didn't wait a few more months or a year and build resentment over it. And then I
didn't
left.
turn into another almost breakup in a way where.
Exactly. And that's how breakups also, I feel, become so chaotic, because we know something's been degrading like earlier, but we're not ready to accept that yet. So we wait until it's at the point of like really intense, chaos, and then we leave.
Yeah.
And I was talking about this with one of the women I'm coaching at the moment yesterday. I was saying, like this ending energy, which is an embodiment of the Kali goddess. She's about like endings.
Yes.
We often feel like, actually, if we were to end something at the right time, when we really feel that whisper to end it, that relationship, that job, that way of being, the habit, whatever it is, if we listen to that at the right time and was like, okay, this is a whisper here, I'm going to listen, I'm going to make this ending, it feels almost at that time premature, because it's like, but this thing is still quite lovely, why am I leaving it? It's still fine, but part of us knows we're over that already, like we're moving beyond that. So it feels premature, but that's only because we're so used to leaving things when it's too late already. And it's like, yeah, I'm so grateful that I left when it wasn't too late. So currently now I'm And throughout all of this, I've also been just a writer. So I write my own personal things like poetry and blogs, but also freelance writing as well, because it really feeds my mind.
Mm,
Whereas like the embodiment work, that kind of feeds my movement and my soul. And I love having both things. It feels really dynamic for me. So
mm.
at the moment, I'm still writing. I'm also coaching women one-to-one on feminine embodiment. And I'm leading like goddess immersions online, and I lead monthly women's circles and retreats, which I had to cancel both of the retreats this year, but I've got another one next year.
That was another reason I was like, I really want to try and get to Bali this year, because I was like, I know Shade's doing her retreats and I know you were super keen. And I was like, but again, next year or like in the future, we'll put those plans on hold for now. But going back to your masculine, feminine, what you were talking about before, I remember we did a section, or there was a part of our training that was done about the masculine and feminine. And I remember it was very, not overwhelming, that's the wrong word, but I'd never really explored that at all before. And I just remember there was this big thing of how we all really held on to this masculine because we'd all felt like we were really toughened up and like that's what we had to be to go out into this world. But then the way you explained, it's like, no, it's okay to have this feminine side of things. And the more that I've kind of watched your journey as well, the more it starts to make sense. And even just what you were saying before about the Kali energy and it's just like so for people who might not be understanding what, say, the masculine, feminine, and again, like you just mentioned before about, say, the feminist movement, like even that has some quite masculine tendencies, I guess.
Totally.
So how do you be feminine without that image that might come into my mind of just super girly, super prissy. Like if someone's feminine, it means that they're weak. If someone's feminine, it means that they just they don't kind of level up and take things seriously. They're just a bit scared of things and a bit prissy. So how do you explain femininity in that regard without it, or making people understand in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, it's just by recognizing that we do have this image that is created by whatever it's created by, right? Like our family, society, culture, all of that. So first by recognizing like, oh, this is what my relationship to this word is. And then when you can start to recognize what you think it means or what the relationship has been to that word before, you can start to dismantle that by understanding that there's a whole different way to look at it. And the way that I really look at it is it's just energy. It's literally just qualities of energy. So a man has feminine energy as much as a woman has masculine. And the way that I work with women through this is we actually start with a whole process of, it's more like philosophy based, and it's the idea of duality, yin and yang, light and dark, opposites. And the opposites is actually where unity is, where magnetism is, where like think about opposites, the charges of a magnet, how that unity of them comes together. So we're dynamic beings as humans, and we can embody all different energies. We can be not only like super focused, we can be also like multiplicity and like hold, like that multitasking energy, right? And so in that way, they're opposites. So it's really just a way to explain how we can be in opposite energies, right? Control versus surrender. And so when you think about it in terms of just qualities of being, that can dismantle what it like the expectation is of or assumption of what feminine looks like. And it's more about what it feels like. So to give some examples of the qualities, I'll start with the masculine so you understand the feminine part. Like the masculine part of us is the part that is more in this like rigidity, and it's not a bad rigidity, it's not negative. All of these energies, masculine and feminine, can have light and shadow aspects, right? Like they can be seen as negative or positive depending on how you express them. But it's the part of us that masculine that can control, focus, hold presence, be still, plan, organize. It's goal focused. It's oriented on like this single goal. It's this ability to like get shit done, basically. Like when we're in our like work boss mode, we're in our masculine, not fully, because actually we can't ever fully be in one energy. There's still aspects of the other energy. Even the yin and yang symbol, it's like such a beautiful way to express this, right? There's like a little white dot in the black portion, there's a little black dot in the white portion. So it's not just if you're masculine, you're not having any feminine. Like, no, actually, you're a mixture of both. And every moment is like asking for or demanding you to be in a different version of this energetic dance. So when I'm at work, I need to be more harnessing my masculine energy to keep that focus. But also, if my work is creative based, I want to draw from my creativity and my ability to be in that curious energy, which is feminine energy, within the work. So recognizing it's not one or the other as well is key. I have like YouTube videos on all of the topics I'm talking about right now, because like
I was going to say, I'm like, if this is all just like blowing your mind, I highly suggest I'll put some links to all of your channels below, so that you can go on a deep dive into all of this. But this is what I remember feeling like, was that you guys were talking about all this stuff, and I was like, you can have one and the other. It doesn't have to be this really strict decision about whether you're masculine or feminine. It is both, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's not only okay, it's like it's going to help you more. And so the feminine is like the surrender, the flow, the ability to release control, to submit, to be creative, to be intuitive, to be physically in your body rather than in your mind. So that's just qualities of the feminine. Notice I didn't say what it looks like, how it should like interact in certain ways, what, the feminine should dress. It's like that's unique to each individual. These are just qualities.
Yeah. And how have you now drawn, so you went from finding feminine to claiming feminine. It's all been claimed. And you've now, drawn that into your teaching on your workshops and retreats and whatnot. So how, I guess, like this part of you claiming feminine has now become your life in a way, with a lot of things that you do. So how is that drawn in? How do you still keep that curiosity going with it when it is your work as well?
Oh, right. Work and life. Yeah. It just inspires me more and more and more, because my work is really based on like helping other women enhance their lives through this. They're a beautiful mirror for me. So when they share something on the circles or the retreats, whether it's a challenge or whether it's an insight, I'm receiving that wisdom as well. And I get to look back through my own lens and see how I'm showing up. And then it's like it feeds into one another in a really harmonious way. It's not that it takes away from the beauty of me being curious in my own process. It feeds my process. So I feel like it's really, it's not this separation of work and personal life then, it's just life.
Yeah. That's so great. With your retreats and workshops and like if someone was to come to a retreat in the near future, when retreats are allowed with a 1.5 meter distance between us all. And actually that's another thing I was curious about in terms of how that might have, if it has changed anything, but in terms of femininity and say touch and things like that, how is something like social distancing being incorporated into that, and how do you explore that?
Yeah, I mean, well, for my work, all of it right now is online. So that doesn't have an impact in that way. It has an impact on the fact that, both of my retreats had to be cancelled. But in the broader sense, if I were to think about how it's impacting people, I mean, it's sad. It's really intense. We thrive off human contact. It's for our mental well-being as well as physical. And for there to be, these regulations around it, whether we believe they're helpful or not, whatever side of the camp you're on, it's just sad that there has to be, because that ability to just spontaneously touch someone, hug someone, stripped away from us is difficult. It's difficult. And that's why I've found like creating communities online. I couldn't do the retreats, but I can create a group where we're retreating for a month together in these processes. That really feeds the soul when we can't have, the other aspects like the physical touch.
Now, before we start wrapping things up, you've been in Bali for 5 years now?
Yeah, 5 years.
Why Bali?
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
Again, in a
Really
short sentence or in,
sure. I came here on a retreat myself, I don't know how many, maybe 8 years ago. And I honestly was like, I need to live here. Like, I felt so compelled to live here. I'm from a small country town in Australia. I do not come from a family who just like go globetrotting and live in international places. So it's not like that was like a very accessible thing at the time, but it was just such a core feeling in my being. And so a year later, I moved here, and it was a whole process of like, how to make that happen. But I made it happen because I wanted to. And I've stayed here because of the community of like minded people, the ability to do life where there's so much less life admin, like little things that just take so much time in Australia, like driving to the shops and getting something, or like filling out forms, and like having to be an adult in so many ways where you just don't have to when you live abroad in certain places like this.
and everything's on Bali time. So
Bali time, exactly. So I feel so much more spacious to have creative energy to do what I want to do and create what I want to create. Whereas when I'm visiting Australia, I feel like my day is just full of like being in the car, or I don't know, it just feels more tense. The energy feels more collectively tense for me. And I feel less connected to the community of people that really feed my soul. It's harder to find that in Australia for me.
I feel like I'm the lesser of like yoga teachers that want to move to Bali, just because I'm like when you said before about how you visited Bali and were like, I want to live here. That's me with Scotland. It's like, one of the coldest places on earth.
Oh.
It's interesting how when you might visit somewhere, and if you might not be from a place where like, you just go and live overseas because that's just what you do. So, planning for that again might be on hold a little bit, but But one last question for you before we have to let you go. While you're not necessarily facilitating in a studio setting at the moment, or not a lot of people are either at the moment, becoming a yoga teacher, finding yoga, is there any advice or any little tidbit or suggestion or something that you would say give to someone who wants to become a yoga teacher or is thinking about that? Or
Totally. Know that with any desire you have in your life, especially when it comes to like your purpose and what you want to do, know that it's all play. Be curious, like see how it goes. Just do the training, see how you feel teaching, see how it feels doing that, see how long you want to do it for. Don't have attachment to how it should look, to the fact that like, oh, if I do a training, that means I have to be a teacher. No, just take it all as play, because it really is. And know that you're receiving so many gifts. It's not just a profession. It's like, it's a lifestyle. It's a way of life. You can't not be evolving in teaching something like yoga. You can't not evolve as you're teaching this. It just comes with it. So there's so many gifts, and when you're not attached to outcome, how it should look, like how am I going to earn money and this and that and that, if you have no attachment around it, then you can really just create it in a way that feels organic and natural, and how it just wants to be in your life. Whether you do a training and never teach, whether you do a training and that's your whole job, whether it's on the side, whether you do it for a little bit and change, like that doesn't matter. If you have the desire for it, go and play and see where that takes you.
I feel like this whole chat has just been about you being like, here's a bit of counseling and help for you, and like, go and chase your dreams. I feel like this has been I've gotten a lot out of this when
That's so cool. I love that.
Channeling your energy, go and chase your dreams, go and live what you want, and play. I think that's a nice thing to end on, is everything is evolving, and just see everything as play, and that not attaching to an outcome. And like I mentioned right at the very start of this, how it's kind of gone back to that being patient in things, and not now knowing what an outcome of something might look like anymore, because we're just kind of sitting in this unknown. So, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. Now, where can people find you, your retreats, your podcast, your YouTube, and whatnot?
Yeah, it's super easy actually. Just type Claiming Feminine into YouTube, and that's me. Claiming Feminine podcast in podcast, and that's me. Also claimingfeminine.com, that's me. And then on Instagram, it's Shae _claiming feminine. But you can, maybe there you put that in the captions or something for people to find. But
Yes.
yeah, just claiming feminine is the tag. And as far as I know, there's no one else with that brand name and work. So you'll be able to find me through that.
Hopefully not, but I'll put all of those in the show notes as well so people can find you. But thank you so much again, and stay safe over there in Bali, and hopefully we'll connect in real life again very, very soon.
Yeah, I hope so too. I'll see you here next year sometime.
Sounds good. Well, I hope you enjoyed that chat with Shae, and if you do want to know more about where you can find out more about her retreats or even just access some of the tools and resources that she has, you can visit claimingfeminine.com, and I'll put the links to her website and her social media channels in the show notes below for you. And this is the final episode for this season of the Plant Powered Yoga podcast. So thank you so much for listening and joining in for the past 14 episodes. It's been a real interesting journey for me, learning how to put this together and share it with the world. So, and obviously being a really interesting time in the world at the moment. So I appreciate everyone who's jumped in and listened. And if you have any feedback or anything that you might like to want to hear about for the next season, there will be another one coming. Just need to take a little bit of a break from doing this for a little while and come back bigger and better next time. So if there's any feedback you have, or even if you or someone you know you want to hear from on the podcast and would like to have them on as a guest, please let me know, because I'd love to, again, chat with more people from all around the world as we continue this podcast. So thank you again for listening, and stay safe out there, and see you all again very, very soon. Thanks again for listening to the Plant Powered Yoga podcast. For more information, visit plantpoweredyoga.com or visit the show notes below. I'd love it if you could rate, review, or even share this podcast with a friend. Thanks so much for helping create a kinder world, and see you next time.